Hey everyone, it's GayDB. So today I wanted to show off this Vendread deck I've been messing around with. I got like 99% of this list from SuperNix. I highly recommend checking out their combo demonstration for Vendread, which I'll link in the description below. They're also just amazing with brewing combos and deck lists in general, so I recommend checking out their stuff too. I have been playing it a bit in Platinum Ranked, but it's also a great choice for the Theme Chronicle event. Vendread is an archetype that has two main mechanics. The first is that they can ritual summon from the graveyard, not just the hand. The second is that by using the non-ritual Vendread as material from the field, you can give your ritual monsters actually useful effects instead of the bad ones they usually have. The main game plan is that you want to ritual summon Vendread Slayer and Vendread Battlelord, use them for material of Link or Synchro monsters, and use their floating effects to set up one final ritual summon using the non-ritual Vendreads. So first, let's jump into this replay I had on ladder to show what the deck can do. And then after, I'll show the deck list, discuss some options I chose, as well as potential budget options as per usual. Something I like about this replay is that it shows off the incantations in this deck, which I'm a little on the fence about. I do like them for the added consistency and ability to play through interruptions, but if you have them really on the field, then you can struggle to get Slayer or Battlelord off the field. So without further ado, let's jump into the replay. So we're going to first start out with Chalice Slime here. See if they have anything like Ash. They do. They fire it right away. However, we did draw a lot of ways to ritual summon and search with this hand, so it's not a huge deal. You go for Candle's Effect and then Talismandra. They go for Effect Veiler. That's fine. But here you see we kind of have a problem with the incantations being on the field, even though Talismandra is negated. Candle's a problem, but we hard drew the Scar, so we can just tribute over it for our normal summon. And that's something I do enjoy with this deck, is you can go a while without just even using your normal at all sometimes. So we're gonna ritual summon Slayer, and then we gotta link him off, get our Vendread combos going. We get a Vendread Savior out. Then we're going to use Scar's effect and Slayer's effect. Get some ritual spells. As well as sending Battlelord, so we have access to it. Then we're going to summon Battlelord, sacrificing Chalice Slime. Then we gotta get Battlelord off the board, although first we're going to pop his effect just in case. We don't really need evolution anymore for anything. And go into another Vendread Savior. So now, since we already used our normal summon, no need to try to go for like a Ben 10 into Diviner route. So we're just going to go for a normal play of getting Executor. And then just go straight into the ritual summon of Slayer using the materials on board, using the Ravenous Vendread ritual spell. And then we can add back the Origin. It's not once per turn. We can fire it again to get Executioner back. Or Executor. Now, this board is not optimal, obviously, but through two hand traps, it's better than you might think. Ideally, the end board is you would have Ultimaya summon out Crystal Wing Synchro Dragons. So in addition to these three guys, we'd have a Crystal Wing on board. And then if you drew any single ritual spell and didn't have to search it out, then you could search Revendread Origin, the trap card. So that's quite a bit of interruption, actually. It's a bit more simplified because my opponent has less cards available to them. Honestly, the banish from Slayer, or the double banish, I have one special monster banish and one spell and trap banish. That could be enough to just take the game. So I end the turn there. My opponent's on Sky Striker. They go for Afterburners. They have to target the Executor. Here I just grab the trap card, because why not? Just in case it goes to grind game, I can have that in my back pocket. We have Hayate, I banish it. Here I do misplay a little bit. I did suspect that they had linkage in hands, so they can chain to the activation of Slayer in the end phase. I should have just tried to let multi-roll resolve here and let them use linkage first, so I could blanket. But it ends up not really mattering anyway. Like, they'll be able to draw Engage, but next turn I can just recycle everything pretty much and just set up for game. I drew Diviner as well, so it doesn't really matter. I can just banish Suzuku. I get the ritual spell back with Savior, and then Diviner just fires off. They see the writing on the wall, they just scoop. So yeah, that's how Vendread plays. That's really fun, I think. Alrighty, so here's the deck list. As I mentioned earlier, most of this is from SuperNix's list. In fact, the main deck is only one card different, and that is the addition of Cerebus. You can grab it with Prep of Right to help your Diviner resolve, or you can just have an extra interruption for your turn 1 setup. I did change a few cards in the extra deck. The main difference is adding in Chaos Ruler, as well as switching out some of the zombie URs I didn't have, but I didn't think you really needed. I have tried some other cards in this, but I like this the best so far. With that out of the way, let's jump into the card by card. First, we have 3 Diviner. Extremely good for the deck since we can search it in Engine and send Arclight for a Ritual Search. Don't need the normal stun for anything else, really. We can use the Pop going second with Natis. So, just does everything you want to draw this card. Triple Ash. Hand traps are hard to fit in, but Ash is the best one, plus it's a zombie. 1 Vendread Hound Horde, the best non-ritual Vendread, can special itself, plus the spell and trap banish is useful. Not many of the Vendread cards have both those qualities. We have 1 Vendread Revenants, the second best non-ritual Vendread. It gives you the special summon monster banish on your ritual monsters. Next, we have Incantation Candle, 2 of them. It searches ritual spells. We're on 2 Talismandra. This one searches ritual monsters. We're on 1 Scar of the Vendread. Extremely good in this deck. It's one of the new support cards. It's a shame that it locks you out of other monsters besides Vendreads if you use its special summon effect, but the first effect is really damn good too, and the second effect does come up as well, so just overall, amazing support card to add. We're on 1 Cyber Angel Benten, mostly to get to Diviner, and we can search ritual monsters in Engine. That's how we can access Diviner in Engine, so love that aspect of it. We're on 3 Slayer. It doesn't do a whole lot on its own. It's mostly just set up for later. As you saw, you want to get that search effect off. So it's like a very unique card. We're on the 1 Cerebus. I pretty much already mentioned what I like about him. Yeah, he's an Ultra. Definitely cuttable, but I think if you have one, you might as well slot it in. We're on 2 Battlelord. It's part of the combo setup, as well as it's kind of a bad Shockmaster, but its effect actually is pretty useful, considering the other Vendread monsters don't really have good effects, so it's like the least bad one, I guess. We're on 3 Incantation Chalice Limes. Very good in this deck, but as mentioned, sometimes the Incantation engine does mess with the Vendreads because you need to get them off the field to start their combos, really, so just be aware of that. We're on the 1 Vendread Executor. The main effect that we care about here is that your opponent can only target this card with card effects. Plus, I guess that it changes its name to Vendread Slayer, so we can protect it with the ritual spell. It just makes it much harder for them to get rid of your Vendread that you gave useful effects to. And we like that. Next, we're on 3 Preparation of Rites. This card is not a once per turn. It's pretty damn good. You want to abuse this card. We're on 3 Pre-Preparation of Rites. Another broken ritual support card. I mean, any ritual deck that can play this will definitely play it. It's a double search. What's not to like? Unfortunately, it is only a hard once per turn, though. Next, we're on the 1 Pot of Prosperity. We don't really care about our extra deck that much, so we want the consistency there. We're on 2 Revendread Origin. So Revendread Origin is very important in that it's not a once per turn, as you saw in the replay. So as long as you can keep getting access to this, you can keep ritual summoning. Plus, you can use zombie monsters from your graveyard by banishing them. And you can banish this card to protect a Revendread Slayer on the field, which most of them do become Revendread Slayer, although be aware that Vendread Battlelord does not actually become Vendread Slayer, which is unfortunate. And some of the combos do end on giving Battlelord the effects instead of Slayer, so if you have the opportunity, that's why I'd recommend giving the effects to Slayer rather than Battlelord, just for the protection. We're on 3 Vendread Evolution. Amazing ritual spell. You get to send material from deck, or 1 material. You're almost always going to be sending Scar of the Vendread, so you can get more searches going there. We're on 1 incantation inception. It's one of the best ways to get some incantations off your field, so really good. Also part of a combo line that ends on the standard board with the Chalice Slime and Battle Lord, so need to play it for that. We're on the 1 Ravenous Vendread. Something to keep in mind about Ravenous Vendread, you cannot use materials from your hand when you're playing Ravenous Vendread. I swear, using this card is so confusing if you didn't understand rituals completely. Like, I definitely didn't understand everything about rituals before playing this. Don't be surprised if you get confused trying to resolve this card and that it doesn't work out how you wanted. But yeah, we're on 2 Called by the Grave. It's a staple card. What more do you say about Called by the Grave? And then we're on 1 Vendread Reorigin. You didn't really get to see this card in the replay, but this card does work. Fun fact, it is not a requirement that you have a Vendread card on your field to use this. It just locks you into Vendreads while you have the token that it summons. But you can just use it, even if you brick and you just draw like Diviner and it gets negated, and then you have Reorigin. Sometimes maybe you can just stop your opponent anyway, because it's still a powerful monster removal card, so keep that in mind. And the best thing about it is that you can loop it every turn with Savior. Just in testing, you can sometimes just lock your opponent out of the game just from this. Now, onto the extra deck. Keep in mind, a lot of this is flexible. Probably explain most of what these cards are doing here at this point, but go through it quickly. We have Natis. It's a pop off of a Divine Normal Summon if you already have what you need, or going second. We're on 2 Herald of the Arclight for the Diviner Send, so you get a ritual monster or ritual spell search. We're on Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. It's very easy for us to go into Ultimaya, so as long as we can go into Ultimaya, we can get a free Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and then it's Monster Negate. Who doesn't love that? Chaos Ruler is important if your Diviner gets negated, but you can still summon a Slayer, so then you can use Diviner plus Slayer to go into Chaos Ruler. You can use him for ritual summons and bring him back. Obviously, his effect is useful too, because the Vendreads and are dark. Run 1 Baron de Fleur. I've never summoned this. It's a super flex slot. Whatever, really. We're on 1 Ultimaya Zilkin, as mentioned. It's very easy for us to go into. Just Diviner plus Slayer equals Ultimaya. And if you check out SuperNix's combo video, you'll see this used quite a bit there. Run 1 Nightmare Cerberus. I've never made this, or Nightmare Phoenix, or Vampire Sucker. None of these cards are completely necessary, really. You can just use whatever you want here. Run 2 Vendread Savior. This card is extremely good. It's a battle phase Foolish Barrel for any zombie. Most people know that. It's thrown into zombie decks, but it has a very powerful recursion effect. You can target any Vendread card once per turn and add it to your hand. And you can actually both these effects per turn. You can do the Foolish Burial and the add back as well. I mean, it's any Vendread card. As I mentioned, you can loop Reorigin. Just does like everything you would want for this deck. It's really good. We're on 1 Crush Seep. I'd recommend this card because we ritual summon and it lets you draw and discard. If you ever have extra material or just zup sometimes, you can go into it. I'm on the 1 Vampire Fascinator. I've never summoned this card either, but it's a pretty powerful zombie link monster that's not an ultra, so I threw it in here. It might come up eventually, but it's flexible if you want to play something else. Same thing with Access Code Talker. I've never made this card either, but theoretically could help close out games. Thankfully, not many ultra rares are needed for this deck, but if you are a bit concerned about the ultra rare points, let's talk through some budget options. Instead of Diviner, you could try out Manju of the 10,000 Hands, but any line that requires Ultimaya to be tributed, you won't be able to complete this without extra cards or adjustments. So keep that in mind. You might have to lab a little bit. Of course, there's always the staples like Ash Blossom. Easily, I get access to 1 Ash Blossom, so I'd recommend at least playing the 1, but just use your favorite staples that you have access to or that aren't ultra. ED Crow. The only other ultra in the main deck, besides, more staples, Called by the Graves, same deal. Sorry, this which you can just cut if you don't have it. As far as extra deck ultras go, if you're not playing Diviner, then obviously you wouldn't be playing Natis. If you're not playing Diviner as well, you probably would want to drop the Chaos Ruler, the Synchro Wing, the Ultimaya as well. Then there's Baron. I've never even summoned this card, so I just had it, so I threw it in. So the Access Code Talker, it's all cuttable. And you can get, as I mentioned already, you can get away with 1 Savior. But really, there aren't many ultra rares you absolutely need to at least try the deck. The hardest thing would be Diviner, but I feel like you can do a lot with Diviner, so it's not a bad card to invest in general. One more thing I did want to mention about replacing ultra rares. You might want to look into some rank 6s. There are some like Photon Bouncer, for example, if you still have access to Diviner, but you don't want to play any of these other ultra rares in the extra, so I would take a look there, but just play whatever you have. As mentioned earlier, this is a great choice for the Theme Chronicle event. You just have to take a few cards out of the extra deck. Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon is banned, Barone is banned, Access Code is banned, but other than Crystal Wing, we don't use any of these cards, really. But there are other targets for Ultimaya. Ultimaya is still legal. I'm playing Stardust Spark Dragon for my turn 1 setup, and then deals on the follow-up because he has a lot of attack and he's hard to get rid of. Yeah, that's what I'm playing for the festival, at least. So, final thoughts. For ranked play, it's surprisingly not too bad, but I wouldn't call it Diamond 1 material. For the event, it's one of the better decks, though. You can play, and people will scoop if you try to think during a combo, because probably one of the longer combo decks you can play, and they don't want to waste their time. While it's far from a meta threat, it offers a unique playstyle of ritual comboing, along with unique forms of interaction, such as a monster and spell and trap banish. I really enjoyed playing it and recommend it as a cheap deck for a change of pace. As always, if you enjoyed the video, remember to like, comment, subscribe. I got more decks in the work, and I'll see you in the next one.